to another episode of Deep Hoops. I am the minister.
And I'm Ra,
Ra?
the straw that stirs the drink.
Thank you. Even though you haven't been stirring it, dirty, but I think today it's going to get stirred. I think today is going to get stirred. We are passionate fans talking about the game that we love. We're coming to you on Facebook, on YouTube, but more importantly on the Rewind Network and DETV. And we will be coming to Washington, D.C. very soon. We are happy to be here talking about the game that we love, and that's the NBA and basketball. All right, let's get it going. Now, before we jump into, this is a Knicks show. Hence the Knicks shirt and the Knicks fan right here. But before we go there, I just want to talk about a few of the quick surprises so far in the NBA. And we were talking about it as we were getting everything together. One of the predictions that you made a long time ago that Luke Walton couldn't coach, okay? And we both thought that Sacramento was going to do something, but I guess you forgot that Luke Walton was the coach there when you thought that they were going to do something because they're not doing anything.
Nah, they're not responding to Luke. Looks like they've regressed. And if there would be an extra team to fall out of the playoffs in the West, I thought they would be the one to get there. It's probably between Dallas and Phoenix right now.
Well, Phoenix is another surprise that I want to talk about.
Absolutely.
Where Luke is not doing anything. Monty Williams, making his reemergence in coaching, is doing a fabulous job early on in the season.
Yeah, right now, Monty Williams is my favorite for Coach of the Year. What he's doing with Phoenix, they have some signature wins against some playoff teams from last year. More noticeable Clippers and Philly. But what he's doing is sensational. We both had Devin Booker in our top 25 to start off our season. And Ricky Rubio. Ricky Rubio, you know, he may not crack anybody's top 10 point guard, and he may not be today's prototypical point guard, but he is a throwback point guard that makes his teammates better, makes his team better, and makes the game easier for his teammates. And we're seeing that right now, and Booker is reaping the benefits.
And you also mentioned, I mean, we know that Ayton is not there, but you mentioned the guy that they picked up from Boston.
Aaron Baines.
Aaron Baines
is probably a best friend to Booker. Mm-hmm. Setting those baseline screens or maybe those elbow screens, freeing him up for a little space, and he's just capitalizing. And keep your eye on Saric. You know, he was part of the Philadelphia trade that went to Minnesota. And for whatever reason, Minnesota let him go. He signed a contract with Phoenix. And I'm going to tell you something. Phoenix has an opportunity to stick around as their confidence grow. They have an opportunity to stick around. If there's a team to fall out that we don't suspect, they could be
wrong. We've seen Golden State. We know that they're falling out. Right. I mean, and it looks as if it's still early. It's still early. But, I mean, who was it? I just looked at Portland right now is not looking great. And, you know, maybe the continuity is not there because they had a lot of different players moving around. So that's why I said you can't judge it this early, but it's something to keep your eye on.
I agree with that.
It's something to keep your eye on. And the other thing where my eye is, and I can't wait until Friday night, and I'm surprised this is not going to be an ESPN game on Friday night, and I know we don't know when you're going to be watching this, but there's a big game coming up. The Lakers in Miami. But Miami is the surprise.
Yeah, Miami is a surprise. I don't know this Kendrick Nunn guy, but I know him now.
Right.
Him and Hero, one of the top backcourts right now. And they're both rookies, and they're not playing like rookies. Mm-mm. And I would go ahead and say this may be Eric Spoelstra's best coaching job that's taken place. They lost a few players. I mean, once upon a time they had Josh Richardson, Tyler Johnson, Hassan Whiteside. Those guys are gone now. And they haven't skipped a beat. In fact, they look better this season than they have in the last couple of seasons.
They do. I mean, you know, right now, and you talk about Spoelstra, I've always said Spoelstra is a good coach. And we're seeing to the degree of what a good coach he really is. And, you know, when you do make something out of nothing, I mean, the first couple of games they won, and Butler wasn't even there.
Yeah, so that's very impressive because he's clearly their best player, and you would think that the team would be centered around.
But it's coaching, and the Pat Riley philosophy: everybody in shape, everybody contributing, everybody giving 100%. That's not hype. And I think that Jimmy Butler's you're not going to have problems with Jimmy Butler with the younger players. And I think I said this in one of our other shows, because that's the philosophy at Miami. So everyone is going to give 100%. No one is going to come in there feeling that they have a special treatment. So they're all going to give 100%, and I like what they're doing. But you know what? We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's going to be on. We're going to talk Knicks, all Knicks, and nothing but the Knicks right after this.
This message is for all Americans that owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS. Call the number on your screen now and we will contact the IRS on your behalf, help you end wage garnishments, stop collection calls, remove tax liens, eliminate IRS and state tax penalties, and reduce the amount you owe if you qualify. Let us take the stress of back taxes and the IRS off your shoulders so you can spend time on the important things in your life, like your family or your business. If you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes, call now. Find out how we can help you.
Are you struggling with addiction? Do you need to detox? Is addiction controlling your life, hurting your loved ones? Don't be ashamed. Addiction is a disease that requires medical treatment. At Freedom from Addiction, we help people nationwide get free from addiction to alcohol, opioids, prescription medicine, narcotics, and more. Your life is precious. Addiction is a disease. Accept the help you need and call Freedom from Addiction now to get the victory over addiction you and your family deserve. We get hundreds of calls every day. Right now, we just want one, yours. Call Freedom from Addiction now, and in as little as 21 days from right now, you can return home free from addiction and free to start a new chapter in your life. But you have to call now.
Make the call, 1-866-485-1956.
And we're back, and we said on this show that we wanted to feature certain teams. And we wanted to feature certain teams where we can really dig deep and talk about them. And there's no team that we can dig deep and talk about better than the Knicks, because you are, literally a die-hard fan. And that's one of the things I'm going to be talking about, you die-hard Knicks fans. I'm a Knicks fan, but I'm not a die-hard, I'm a player fan. I've said that a million times. But because of the passion that the Knicks fans have, I thought it would be a great kickoff for focusing on the team. So I'm going to throw you an alley-oop. You can get us started. Whatever you want to opine about, and I think I know it's going to be Fizdale, but whatever it is, go.
First of all, I am a long-time suffering, die-hard Knicks fan. Nothing will ever change. Because of them, I've been an NBA League Pass subscriber for like the last 15 to 18 years because I've left the city of New York. However, with that said, they're my team through it all. But yes, I do have a gripe to pick with them. And I want to start off by saying this. Just because you're a likable babysitter doesn't make you a great parent. Just because I had a good time with you out on a date don't make you a good spouse. Just because you're a likable coach, assistant coach, doesn't make you a good head coach. The problem that New York has right now is Fizdale. He can't coach. And when management realizes that they have the wrong guy at the helm, the Knicks will always be at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. The guy cannot coach. He's an assistant coach only.
What else? What else? I want you to get it off your chest. Speak for the Knick mob out there.
First of all, just like in the NFL, without a quality quarterback, you don't have a chance. In the NBA, if you don't have a quality point guard, you don't have a chance. We have 3 backup point guards right now. Dennis Smith Jr., Alfred Payton, and Frank Ntilikina. None of them are a starting point guard. You're putting the balls in the hands of R.J. Barrett, forcing him to be a point guard. That's taken away from his game. And he is a bright spot on this team. I believe going forward, this guy's going to make several All-Star games. He may even become an All-NBA player. The guy has talent. He's only going to get better. He's 19 years old. He has an NBA body. He's crafty with the ball. But he needs a running mate. He needs a starting point guard. Steve Mills, Scott Perry, it is your job to shop for the groceries. You brought in 5 power forwards and 4 shooting guards. We need a point guard. The 3 that we have is not the answer. Now, I will give Fizz credit on this. I have not seen the Knicks' intensity on defense like this since the Mike Woodson team. They are playing hard on the defensive end. They're switching on everything. Occasionally they get burnt, but they are playing with intensity. But on the offensive end, you don't have a clue. Randall doesn't have a handle. Take the ball out of his hands. He should not be leading the team in assists. But you know what? That happens when your power forward is leading your team in assists, when you don't have a starting point guard. Get a starting point guard. There's some teams with 2.
So, Fizz, point guard, front office, not getting you the point guard that you need, and getting you a whole bunch of power forwards. What else? This is like therapy for you.
And the last, and this is probably the biggest of them all. Can we find some pictures on Dolan so we can force him to sell the team? Now
I agree with you. Now I agree with you.
You know, here's the thing about Dolan. His behavior, whether it's this or that or that or this, has put this stain on the franchise. However, he has stand clear for quite a bit. But it's also up to the management team to get these people in here. And if you can't get quality players, then get a coach who can coach them up. You know, you was talking about the surprises. Monty Williams is doing a fantastic job with Phoenix. I mean, yeah, they got a top 25 player in Booker, but what else do they really have? The big man is out 25 games, and they haven't even skipped a beat. Ricky Rubio is not a top 10 point guard. I mean, but he's getting the best of his players. Kelly Oubre Jr., he was kicked to the wolves by Washington after they got rid of Otto Porter Jr. So get a coach that can get the best of their players or the most of their players. Fizz is not the answer. I'm sorry.
Well, you know, all right, I'm going to stop. And I want to say this to all of the passionate Knicks fans out there. And the problem with passionate Knicks fans, they're probably the smartest basketball fans out of any fan in the NBA. Okay? But that blessing is also your burden because you want it done immediately. It takes time to build a winner. And, you know, even in the press says, well, they can't wait because they're New York. Well, hell, we've been waiting 20 years already. Why not just do it right?
I don't think that's the issue. And I think that's the Knicks fan that you are. You said you don't die hard with them. It's just, we're not looking for a microwavable result, but we're looking for improvement. There has not been any improvement on any level of this organization in the last 5 years, maybe even longer. Our last best success season was with Mike Woodson when we won 50 games. We had some quality veterans on the team, from Rasheed Wallace to Jason Kidd, and you had Carmelo when he was a little bit younger, and they won 50 games. But after that, you bring in Phil Jackson.
Terrible move.
Right.
Terrible. And at the time, I thought maybe he could do something.
But you know what someone said? What's Phil Jackson going to do? He's never held this position before.
Right.
And someone also said...
But he did pick up a Porzingis.
But here's what they also said. Who's going to want to work with Phil when he's beat everybody? And look, he had not won a favorable trade that he made.
Yeah.
Not one favorable trade. And the Porzingis draft, I was here with you watching that draft that night.
I know. I remember.
He don't get credit for drafting Porzingis. Porzingis fell in his lap. He wanted Okafor or Russell, but they were off the board, and he took him at number 4. So
he doesn't even get credit for the good thing he did.
Listen, if he had the second pick, he wouldn't have picked Porzingis.
If you had the second pick, would you have picked Porzingis?
If I had the 4th pick, I wouldn't have picked Porzingis.
At least you're honest.
I'm being honest. I don't know enough about Porzingis
Right.
at the time of the pick to pick him as high. I probably would have picked Justice Winslow over him. Now, is Justice Winslow a better player than Porzingis? No. But what I'm saying to you is this. I don't give Phil credit for drafting Porzingis because he wanted Russell and Okafor. Jaquil Okafor and Russell. But they were taken.
But you want Russell now.
Not really. I don't want
I
Russell.
thought on the string that you said maybe somebody else. Okay.
I don't want Russell.
You don't want Russell.
Uh-uh.
But you want a point guard.
I need a starting point guard.
But you don't want Russell. So if Russell,
I don't want Russell because
who would you pick up if
Right
let's play
now-
Ron the GM for the Knicks.
Right now, I would contact OKC, offer Dennis Smith Jr. and Frank Ntilikina, and see if I can get Dennis Schroeder.
Okay. Now I've heard you say that a million times. What does that do for you?
Well, here's what it is. First of all, one of the reasons why we lost out on Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant is because we don't have a winning culture. Okay? So we need to start winning. I think that Dennis Schroeder is a top 15 point guard in this league, and I think that he will help us win. It would take the ball out of Randall. It would put us in a better position to win because we have a point guard on the court facilitating. We don't have that.
Okay, but you don't see that as a long-term fix. That's a short-term
Here's
fix.
the thing. What I see from that is that his contract is up the same time as Smith and Ntilikina. So my thing is this. If we're going to have one more season of these contracts, which contract would I rather have? Or which player I would rather have? I would rather have Schroeder opposed to them for that extra season. And if that gives me 5 to 10 more wins, or maybe 12 more wins, I'll take it.
Okay.
Because we need to be better. Now, if Schroeder was on the hook for 4 more years, then I'm not taking that move.
Okay, all right. I understand.
But because the contracts are equivalent as far as years, because there's only one more season on all of their contract, I'd rather have Schroeder.
That's rather GM. I mean, you make a good point. I thought it was this, you were looking for him as your future.
No.
I mean, he's not your future.
No, he's not the future. And those two that I named is
they're not the future. But you know what? What is it? So you get rid of the two of them. Who's your backup?
Peyton. Alfred Payton.
Okay. Right.
And I think Peyton backing up Schroeder is much better than Peyton starting and one of them backing up Peyton.
I'll go with that.
And here's another thing. You know, I've heard, well, why don't you just tank? No, tanking don't get you anywhere.
Right, because of the way
because of the new rules. Right. So you might as well just win and get your place in order.
And then we're going to get to closing comments coming up. But let me ask you this. You want to see a coaching change.
Yes.
And how many years has he been there? This is his second year?
This is his second season.
This is his second season. And they're rebuilding and they're going through a culture change and everything. I like a team that is going to do a slow build and you have that continuity. You get rid of them now you bring in another culture in, another system. When do you stop getting rid of people and say, you know what, we have to organically grow? And you didn't like Spoelstra. He's under that same tree. You didn't like Spoelstra, but now you're giving him credit that he possibly could be a good coach. I don't think that you're giving Fizz enough time.
I'll answer your question. When do we stop? When you find the right person.
How do you know that you don't?
With Spoelstra, my thing with Spoelstra is not that I didn't think he was a good coach. I didn't like him. I find it hard to give someone credit when you have 3 of the top 10 players on your team. Just like I don't think Phil Jackson is a great coach. I think he's a great manager. But when you always have 2 of the top 5 players or 2 of the top 3 players, sure, it's going to be easy to coach. Look at Kerr. We're going to find out if he's a good coach or not. You know, and when LeBron and that team dismantled somewhat in Miami, and Spoelstra had to coach non-superstars or non-top 10 players, we find out that, you know what, he's not a bad coach after all.
Well, right now, Fizz is dealing with non-players. We're, 8 games or so, 10 games into the season. I think that we're panicking too soon.
My thing is this with Fizz and with any other coach. To me, it's not always about wins and losses. Yeah, wins and losses are great. But to me, what determines a good coach is when I see you getting the most out of your players. He's not getting the most out of his players. And that's why I have a problem with him. He took over a Memphis playoff team and watched it just like disappear, dilute, and eventually
Age, injury. I mean, come on now. Come on now.
Well, I mean, he took it over, and it just started going this way.
Well, I mean, it was going that way. It was going to go that way anyway.
Yeah.
I don't blame that on Fizz. We'll be right back with our closing comments. All right, we're back. Before we get to the closing comments, what do you want to say to wrap this and put a bow on this one?
Well, you know, it's also important, too, because we talked about this some seasons ago. You know, with Brooklyn now in the 5 boroughs, all right, and literally being across the river from the Garden, it's just been a battle not only between teams, but between arenas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, you know, you got Kyrie speaking out, we're taking over, and you know, what happens is that I believe the Knicks fans are the older fans, and Brooklyn fans are the younger fans, the more hip-hop fans. And I don't know if you ever watch a Brooklyn game, but between commercials, I mean, it's exciting. It's like going to a club. So my thing is this: the Knicks got to do something before the threat of losing the city. Just like the Lakers. Lakers haven't been the Lakers in the last 6-7 seasons. Matter of fact, prior to this season, the Lakers had more losses than the Knicks. And during that time, the Clippers was the better team, but you see how they regrouped and reassembled perhaps maybe a finals team this year. And it started with the acquisition of LeBron last year. But the Knicks got to make some kind of move or make some noise or just improve to be relevant.
So you want them to go the route of the Lakers to gain relevance?
I want the Knicks to go the route that's going to improve their team. And then,
So on the trajectory that they're on now, or the path that they're on now, you don't see them improving their team?
not with Fizz. I think
So Fizz is the main reason?
Yes, I think he's mediocre.
Okay, all right.
Like I said earlier, Fizz is the kind of person that you can date and have a good time, but you don't make him a spouse.
Let's get to our closing comments. I don't know what you want to do, but I have my notes, so I'll let you go first.
My closing comments is going to center around the NBA. This early part of the season, just the start of the season, we're not even 10 games in yet. And we've had 2 young players suspended for 25 games because of banned substance. And when I look at the 2 people, and 2 players, don't get me wrong, you know, anybody's capable of doing anything. But when I look at DeAndre Ayton and John Collins, I look at 2 young players that appears to be very respectable and highly respected. And for them to use some sort of substance and be banned for 25 games, I'm questioning the NBA. Did they come out with a revised list and then notify anyone? And if they have, shame on the players for not being aware of that. Whether it is their nutritionist, whether it is their trainer, someone should be notified about this revised list and bring it back to the player. But if the NBA has revised their list of banned substance and has not notified the teams, players, agents, or anybody else affiliated with the game, then shame on them. Because at the end of the day, this is not a good look for the NBA that their players are being suspended for using banned substance. get a grip on this, NBA. This is not something to be taken lightly.
Well, what also prompted this Knicks conversation was my closing comments on the Knicks last week. Well, I have a revised closing comments on the Knicks this week. You mentioned that Fizz and a lack of a point guard is the challenge. But Fizz came from the Spolster system, and they found Kendrick Nunn, and he's giving them something. My point being is, give it some time. But my main point is, Knicks fans, I said it's a blessing and a burden, your passion and your knowledge for the game. And it is. It's a blessing and a burden. You understand the game, and you want to win now. But my philosophy is, okay, we've tried it. We're not getting free agents. Let's build it organically. Let's build it slowly and organically, a la the Golden State Warriors. Now, there's two ways to a championship, and we're not sure if the Lakers or even the Clippers are going to do it by just acquiring superstars and hoping that everything fits. But the way that the Golden State Warriors did it, they drafted Curry in the 2009 draft. They drafted then they drafted Klay Thompson. Then they picked up Harrison Barnes, Festus Ezeli, and Draymond Green. And then they started making acquisitions. And I remember at the time, and we have it on audio because we were doing Deep Hoops back then, Monte Ellis, you was against them getting rid of him. But they had to get rid of a name to bring back young players that can play together and grow organically. I think that's what the Knicks need to do. And maybe Rod's right. Maybe it's not with Fizdale. But you know what? If you're going to get rid of him, do it right now.
Yes.
If you're going to get rid of him, do it now and don't prolong this thing. If you're going to stick with him, stick it all the way out. And hopefully he will do something. I don't think he's a bad coach. I think he's a coach that needs an opportunity. And Knicks fans, slow your roll. I go out on the Knick Bob on Facebook, and y'all are some angry folk. It's only 9-10 games in. Let's let it happen organically. Let's show the rest of the world that says New York has to have it instantly. Well, we haven't been able to have it instantly. We haven't had a winning team since, what year was it? 2013 was the last playoff appearance. That's the last one. We haven't really been relevant since 2004, I think it was, when we were going to deep in the Eastern Conference, at least in the Eastern Conference. So my point is, let's slow the roll. Let's watch. There's nothing wrong with talking about things, but let's stop running people out of town and let's let them organically build. I believe in the front office. I don't believe in Dolan, but I believe in the front office. Let them do their job. And maybe you can opine like Rod does. You get your own show and call yourself Rod the GM, and you can opine that way. Other than that, leave them alone and let them do what they do. Listen, man, we put in another show, another closing comments where you're looking at me like you want to punch me, right? Man, we grew up together, man.
Yeah.
We will talk to you next time for DETV Rewind Network. I am the Minister.
And I'm Rod.
And we'll talk to you next week. Peace.